let's talk about that cast a little bit. We could all assume Deborah Winger was on everyone's list because she had just come out in Officer Gentleman and Urban Cowboy. But tell us about the roles of Aurora. I mean, clearly that was going to be a star, and there must have been every 50-year-old actress vying for that part.
Yeah, it was about, I guess, easily a couple of months of my life where I'd be taking a great actress to lunch sort of regularly and talking to her, and it was, just so important, and it was, and everyone I met, I remember Geraldine Page.
Right,
Yeah.
going the Four Seasons.
Yes. Geraldine Page was the great theater
Sure.
actress, and I wonder if, I don't know how much of this is out of school, but it was difficult to get a script to her because there was sort of a keeper of the house that was ferocious on that score. But we got a script to her, and she said, "I'll meet with him if we go to a great restaurant." And she was a colorful character. There was nobody like her. She was eccentric. So I'm at the Four Seasons, and
she always had the hems falling out of her skirts. Do you remember that? Everything was a little unsewn.
No, she did look like a street person. She absolutely, no, absolutely. And it was so great because she came in and we sat and we talked, and then the waiter came to take her plate away, and she went over her plate and she held it like this that they wouldn't take her food away. And and it was like I fell in love with her at that moment. It was so damn funny, and it was so poignant, and actually you're talking to great actresses where the parts aren't around for them too. I mean, that was that period. So every one of those lunches was resonant and took you a while to think about. And then Sue Mangers called me one day. Do you remember this? Mm-hmm. And suggested I see Shirley. And she didn't represent Shirley. She didn't represent me. And I went out and to see her at the beach, and that was it. And I remember we didn't even look at each other. We just stood like side by side like this, and she said, "I think this could work," and I felt the same way.
And then
I do have one story to tell on Jim on this, which is Jim's very thorough, and he had this was
what a gracious term.
And it was the first film you had actually directed. You're so right.
Yes.
And he said, "Well, now, what about Elizabeth Taylor? But she'd have to read for me." And I said, "Jim, you're asking me to ask Elizabeth Taylor to read for you?" And I still remember that.
She didn't, did she?
No. That is great. And then Juliet and Jim, also, tell us a little bit about how the unknown Jeff Daniels got that part. I mean, he was doing plays and I think had one small part in Ragtime at the time. Tell us how that happened.
Go ahead.
No,
go ahead.
Well, no, except that I'd seen him in The 5th of July, which was sort of his
it's great.
his big debut on stage, and I was crazy about him, and I just thought he'd be great for the part. But that's my.
He finished, I think, second for a couple of very important parts, a couple of very important movie parts. And Jeff said to me once, and that was his film debut, wasn't it? Mm-hmm. And Jeff said to me once that it was just the right time, because if he had to do Three Sisters once more, if he was doing Off-Broadway once more, something would have clicked. It was not the fun that it once was. And so it happened at precisely the right time. And he was, his spirit got me through a lot of tough days on that film. And then there's a child, Huckleberry
Fox.
And who really, the picture wouldn't have been the picture without that child, because he had maybe the biggest scene in the movie. Right. I mean, he has a scene that everybody remembers, and that was like, and I don't know how Juliet found him, and I remember when we did the scene, and I remember this remarkable thing where this little boy is crying, and I went over to him afterwards. That doesn't make me a great director. How'd you do that? And he didn't give me a satisfactory answer, but.
All right. You told me earlier you wanted to tell a little story about somehow where Juliet helped you on another film.
Yeah, this is a story I often tell about Juliet, and I never tell it well enough because people are never as impressed as they should be after I tell this story. But I'm going to take a crack at it. I was about to start my second movie, Broadcast News, and the co-starring role, the girl, we had tested somebody, and we were going to go with her, and we were 2 days away from rehearsal. And I was gone nuts. It didn't feel right. I was kidding myself. Actress was wonderful, she was wonderful, but I was just 2 days away, and I didn't feel the way you're supposed to feel. Juliet, it had to be, literally, 4 or 5 months that we were casting this picture, that we were looking. Now she gets the 1 millionth call from me,
At 7 in the morning, I think it was.
Something like that, of a part that we just closed, right? And I said I didn't feel right, and this was, this is after months of me whining to her about this part, and she said, "Tell me again what you think the character is." This is after these many months, and I started to talk about the character, explain the character. You remember this well? Mm-hmm. And she said, "There's a girl who I think she may be in town who just did this play," and it was Holly Hunter. And Holly Hunter was there that day, was going to leave the next day. We read her that morning, immediately cast, went into rehearsals. And it's just, you're always hanging by that thread. It's the thing you can't tell yourself. You know this. How important it is, how vital it is, what the slender thread is, that if you cast it this way, it's a totally different movie. It's so humbling that you can't deal with it from day to day. And it was, and she did it.
Right.